Hey, my name's Sean. I'm the owner operator of VHS and Chill OKC. That's me. Currently involved with the Oklahoma Film Exchange as one of the part owners of that organization. Is what I'm doing right now. Yeah, I love OKC. Love movies. Used to be the GM of Rodeo Cinema. We used to get into all kinds of shenanigans there. But yeah, that's me, Sean.
Nice. When did you start VHS and Chill?
VHS and Chill was started in 2016, 10 years ago. It started, I was just an IT drone in a cubicle, working for like Chesapeake or something. And my little cubicle had just rows of VHS tapes and little TVs lined up in it that, I decorated my little office, my cube. And and I was like, I needed something. I needed a hobby, I needed something to do. And it started because I built a TV wall in my garage. I watched RoboCop, which of course has come back around with the RoboCop stuff. But I watched RoboCop, and the bad guy in his apartment, he had a wall of CRT TVs, and I loved that. And I was like, this was 2016. Those TVs were everywhere. People were giving them away. You could buy 5 CRT TVs for $50. They were just, nobody wanted them. Everybody was going flat screen. There wasn't the retro revival yet. There wasn't the video games that everybody was wanting to play because of the scan lines and all that stuff. No, you could get them at pawn shops. You could get them thrift stores where they were just stocked full of them. So for, less than $100, I built a TV wall. I built 9 big CRT TVs and then added a bunch of little ones and wrapped it in lights, hanging lights and stuff, and built that in my garage. And then started collecting VHS tapes again, because I used to have a collection, in the 90s and stuff, but sold all those to buy DVDs when that came out. But got back into VHS, and of course, back 10 years ago, there wasn't a big VHS market. People were giving them away. I remember going to estate sales and people just giving me boxes of tapes, just handing me crates of tapes, just like, take these. Here's $5. Take 100 tapes, take 200 tapes. And they would just give them to you. And I built out my garage with VHS tapes, with movie stuff. And then I just started having parties with my buddies. I started watching movies. It was real loose, and then we started doing like screenings and theme things and nights, and I started getting into it. And then the thing was, the crowd just kept growing. It was my close friends, and then like friends of friends, and then it became like just randos and strangers would hear about my shows, and people would show up to my house, and I had no idea who they were, going through my place, using my bathroom, and I didn't know who these people were, just walking through my house, leaving mud everywhere. And those parties got pretty wild and crazy. We did all kinds of goofy stuff. We did a never-ending story marathon, which is the worst marathon ever to do because the first one's great. Everybody has a blast with the first one. The second one is such a drop-off in quality. And then the third is even worse. And then we watched the PBS cartoon show. We watched the live-action BBC, like steampunk, never-ending story. It was awful. It was terrible. And we did like a Lord of the Rings marathon where we did all of the Lord of the Rings movies, including The Hobbit and the extended editions. So it was like we started at like 6 a.m. and by like 10 p.m. it was chaos. Like people were fighting in the yard. Everybody was drunk. It was madness. And like by the evening, it was like we were in halfway through the 2 towers. Like we didn't even get to the last one, like before we had to shut it down. But the thing was, those parties got too big.
Yeah.
And that's when I started doing midnight shows at my house, because it would be less people would show up, more curated screenings. And then we started going public because I needed to get out of the house. I was, it was getting too big for the garage. So my first public show was the IAO Gallery down on Film Row, right across the street from where OFX is now, was where I had my first public show. And it was a screening of Buckaroo Banzai was the first show I did. That's how it started. That was the beginning of it all.
Yeah. And since like opening it up to like the public, basically, you've hopped like a bunch of different places. Like you screen movies at bars, bookstores.
Yeah, bookstores, music venues, art galleries, restaurants, just really anywhere and everywhere that I could. I just wanted to show movies. At its peak, I guess you would say, I was doing 4 shows a month. Every week I had a show at a different place. Like I was at the Speakeasy the first week of the month. And then the next week I was like Lost Highway. And then the third week I was doing something in the Plaza District with them. And then the fourth week it was like I was doing stuff at Rodeo by that time. But I mean, that was a lot. Doing 4 shows a month was a bit much. And I did that for a while.
The caveat was always like, this is a screening from VHS tape.
Yeah, that was always on VHS. That was the gist. And I even got to show it in movie theaters a couple times. We showed it on the big screen at Rodeo. We showed VHS. And I remember that was the whole thing, trying to talk with like an NEC projector IT guy on how to frame the lens so I could show 4:3 proper and not have it stretched out. And the guy I was talking to kept asking me, why? This is a movie theater. Why are you formatting 4:3 on a giant, 50, 100 foot screen?
Yeah, why are you limiting
He was like, what are you doing? What is this for? And I was like, I'm going to show VHS tapes. And he's like, why? How? Like, what are you doing? And I remember getting that set up at Rodeo, and Flicks let me do a couple screenings. And whenever I did them like that, I would always, the intro would be VHS as it was never meant to be seen on the big screen. So you see all the grit, all the blur, all the fuzz just magnified 100 times than on your little TV. And the audio, mono, just barely stereo. Sometimes later movies had surround and stuff, and it was just a absolute joy to do those screenings. It was fun.
I guess my question is the same as him. Like, why VHS tapes? Like, what is it about like screening specifically tapes that you wanted to do?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I got back into collecting VHS tapes, so that was, what I enjoyed. But I mean, at the same time, I was still buying Blu-rays and DVDs, Blu-rays, and later got into 4Ks. But obviously, a kid who was born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s, VHS tapes were how I did everything. I mean, how I watched stuff growing up was always on, when I was a kid, I had a big VHS collection. So watching it is nostalgic. Watching it, with guys my age, you reminisce about the 90s and the good days and the good old days and all that fun stuff. And there was just something fun. Yeah, it's like, anywhere you can go and see a movie in full widescreen or letterbox with like 5.1, Dolby surround and, HD. Or you could watch Critters and on the big screen with a crowd and watch the tape get eaten by the VCR in the middle of the movie, and everybody's just clapping and whooping and hollering because that's hilarious and that it just tore up your movie. You can't get that watching a 4K. You're not going to get that fun experience. Another fun example like that was at Flashback Retro Pub. We did a John Hughes retrospective and watched a bunch of John Hughes movies, and the tape tore in the middle of the movie, one of the movies we were watching, and we literally did surgery on the tape in the middle of the bar. We had people bust out their phones with flashlights. We got a screwdriver from the bar. We opened the tape up. We unscrewed everything and took it all apart. And then we found where the tear was, and then we scotch taped the movie back together, wound it past the tear, put it all back together, and just finished the movie. But the crowd, the audience and we were all around this table at the bar, like, hand me this, hand me that, like doing surgery on a tape. It was a lot of fun. It was
yeah. I guess there is something just in the air right now. I mean, like you said, like 10 years ago, like people did not care about this medium, but now people are so nostalgic for like this sort of era of watching movies and listening to music on cassette. Like, even though the fidelity isn't there.
Oh no, not at all. Yeah, VHS is terrible quality. Like, I'll never defend it as like a superior format. It's a fun format. It's a retro format. But no, watching, Mad Max on VHS, I mean, it looks like trash. But for kids that grew up watching Mad Max when they were kids, it's how we watched it. It was great.
Yeah. Did you have a lot of tapes like as a kid?
I had a nice collection. Yeah, I was always I guess 1993. I can remember when I became a movie kid. That was when Jurassic Park came out. I was 12 years old. Jurassic Park came out, and my world changed from being, Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, X-Men. And now I was like, oh, movies. Like these are awesome. Obviously I grew up watching movies, Goonies and, the stuff of E.T. and all that stuff growing up. But when Jurassic Park came out, that's when I was like a theater kid. That's when I was just going to go out to the movie theater all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. How many VHS tapes do you think you've collected at this point?
There was a time it was thousands, but I've done so many tape swaps and I've sold and traded so many movies. I mean, this is probably just a couple hundred on this wall here. I'd be surprised if it was 1,000. It's probably not even near that. But at one time, it was thousands of tapes, laser discs, CDs, betas. I kind of got into all of it.
Yeah, just built over like decades of collecting.
Yeah.
So what made you kind of decide to wind things down?
I'd always, as you pass like a 5-year mark, I knew I wasn't going to do it forever. 10 years sounded like a good round number. I feel like I accomplished what I was trying to do back then, which was, when I started it, I remember I went to a tape swap in Dallas, the Dallas VHS tape swap. And the community was just amazing. They had the coolest tapes. They had tables. I ended up setting up tables a couple times at the Dallas tape swap for a few times before bringing. Then I came back to Oklahoma City and I was like, well, who's the VHS guy in Oklahoma City? So I gone on Instagram and Facebook and looked and asked around, and I was like, oh, there's nobody. Back 10 years ago, I was like, there's no VHS guy. Or if there was, I didn't know who it was. I didn't have that connection. So I was like, well, shit, I guess I'll be the VHS guy. So I just started doing the tape swaps. I started doing the screenings. Back then, it was just like me and the Oklahoma Film Society. I know they're still around and kicking a little bit. But now there's all these different little film groups. There's the Norman, people in Norman. There's a couple groups in Norman. There's, Bookish, the people, there's the Anime Club. There's all these little film groups that have picked up, in that 10 years. And that's what I like. I saw those communities in other big cities like Kansas City, like Dallas, like Austin had huge movie communities. And I didn't see that here in Oklahoma City. We just had the megaplexes. I back then I wasn't in tune with the Museum of Art. I kind of missed the 90s and stuff with that. I didn't learn until, a few years ago that, the Museum of Art did Kung Fu screenings that I would have loved in the 90s, and all these people went to them, and I, wasn't a part of that. And I didn't have that connection. So I decided to build a new connection, after 2016.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like an opportunity for people to go see a movie outside of their home. That's like more indie and alternative and underground that other big cities have screenings for, but places like in the Midwest don't really do as much.
Yeah. No, they don't, especially 10 years ago before COVID. I mean, repertoire movies, older movies, nobody was showing Ninja Turtles. Nobody was showing old screenings of, Independence Day. It was just the new stuff. It was always AMC, Quail Springs Mall. It was always just the big movies. But then COVID hit, and then people started throwing everything at the wall. And that's when a lot of anniversary screenings started coming back, and you could catch Indiana Jones, all these old classics and see them up on the big screen for the first time. It was amazing.
Yeah. You've worked in movie theaters, in a few different movie theaters even. I'm curious about sort of the philosophy that you've developed in terms of curating a run of films for a theater.
Yeah. Again, it's always the old stuff. It's always the retro with me. I like those. I'll see, I saw Gravity again at Harkins, and that was just I had a blast at that. I saw Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner, because I was too little when that came out. I saw that on the big screen for the first time at Harkins downtown. So to me, yeah, it's cool seeing new movies. I've seen amazing films, obviously, but to me, it was always fun to share movies that you love. Which one of that was, how VHS and Chill was I was showing a movie that I liked. I wanted to show people Mannequin. Nobody, a lot of this generation, these kids, they'd never seen it. At Flicks, when I was a manager at Flicks Brewhouse, I celebrated Rex Manning Day from Empire Records one April. I dressed up. I brought the cardboard cutout, the giant Rex Manning. I had lanyards made for all the other managers, and I was playing the Rex Manning or the Empire Records soundtrack when the employees came in. Because I opened the place up, and nobody knew what I was talking about. None of them. They were like, who the fuck is Rex Manning? What is Empire Records? I have no idea what you're talking about. And I was like, like some cities have huge Empire Record days. And, I've held several screenings over the years of Empire Records, but it was always like, letting the younger kids, letting them see movies they would have never thought about watching that are good movies. But like when I was a kid, I didn't watch my parents' movies. I didn't watch Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. I didn't watch the original Dr. Dolittle or, those things that my mom watched. She liked movies. I always, black and white, Casablanca, like gross, like when I was that age. And so when we talk about these movies to people, the kids say the same thing. They're like, what? I don't know what any of this stuff is. What's Super Mario? Like, there's a live action Super Mario Brothers with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo. Like, what are you talking about? I did a screening of that at Flicks because nobody had seen it. They'd never even heard of it. They were like, no, the cartoon. And I was like, no, the one with the people, with Dennis Hopper as King Koopa. And people were like, what? Yeah. No, that's not a thing. And I'm like, it was. And it was amazing.
I'm curious, like, what's some of your favorite tapes out here?
Super Mario Brothers, obviously. That one that I love. When I was a kid, I loved this movie. Because most people hate it. Because it's so different from the source material. It's such a weird adaptation of Vision that makes no sense whatsoever. But to me, I remember as a kid, I thought it was fantastic. I was like, cool dinosaur puppets, fireballs, the police car. I thought it was great. Like Tank Girl is another one around the same era. One of the years, last year at Bookish, my whole series was the 1996, just movies from, I called it a World Tour 1996 or whatever. And, we showed Space Truckers, which is a straight to video here in America movie that with Dennis Hopper, Steven Dorff, Debbie Mazar. And, it's awful, but I love it. It's so fun. I really like bad movies. I like movies that are cheesy. I like movies where people have fun, where the actors are having a hoot. It's preposterous. Nobody takes themselves too seriously. When I would do VHS and Chill screenings, I would always introduce it by saying, this is not an art house screening. You can talk, you can laugh, you can throw popcorn at the screen. It's, have fun, make jokes. We did a screening one time and we had a guy who was just cracking jokes through The Explorers, an amazing old 80s movies. But his jokes were so funny, we were dying. And it's that garage experience. It's that hanging out with your buddies, having a beer, watching some crappy movie, and just riffing, just joking, just having a good time. And not getting too serious with it, because life is serious enough that things like that were a good distraction, a good way to get out of it,
Yeah, and I guess like the tape format kind of lends itself to, not taking the movie that seriously, because you're not watching it that well anyway.
No, not at all. Not at all. There's just so many weird, like Spiders and Spiders 2.
Cronenberg?
No, they're not. They are straight to DVD, Lionsgate, Trimark movies from what is this? They're like 2001, 2000. Like, these are ridiculous. They're just terrible monster movies, but they're a hoot to watch. And again, this is stuff you do with friends. This is stuff you do with strangers, with people you've never met. These aren't like, if you're sitting home by yourself watching Spiders, I don't know, you can, I guess, but it's better to have 3 or 4 cats in there with you, and we're all having fun. It was always an experience, a community experience of watching fun movies that people aren't taking too seriously, and are just having fun, just enjoying themselves for 2 hours, hour and a half. That's what I loved out of it.
So August is sort of your last month of programming. What do you have planned?
We're doing a screening at the Oklahoma Film Exchange. We're bringing it full circle, 10 years. We're going to watch Buckaroo Banzai. Obviously, we licensed it. We're going to go big with it. We're going to have a lot of fun. I hope people dress up. I'm going to give away some stuff, some classic VHS and Chill stuff. That's the big end of it all. Will be just a fun, because if you've ever seen Buckaroo Banzai, it's literally one of my favorite films of all time. And I think people are going to have so much fun with it. I mean, it's got a cast. You've got Peter Weller, you've got John Lithgow, you've got Jeff Goldblum, you've got this insane cast of just people just with the most ridiculous script and story about aliens and interdimensional stuff. And so that's what we're doing for the big hurrah, the big finale is a nice screening at the OFX of that.
Yeah, just ending it where you kind of began.
Yeah, just ending it where we began, going out on a high note. I'll still be doing stuff at the OFX, still be hosting screenings. We're just this month wrapping up the RoboCop series I've been doing for 6 months. RoboCop on a Thursday at 10 p.m., which then switched to 8 p.m. because nobody wanted to come out at 10 p.m. But now at 8 p.m. we get a lot of people. So, but that series is ending. I haven't really picked my next one yet, but I'll still be doing stuff at the OFX, hosting screenings and obviously helping them, do amazing things that they've been doing.
Nice. All right. Is there anything else you want to mention?
I know I don't want to say too much, but I do believe there is a future for VHS and Chill OKC here in town that I'm not a part of. Or I mean, I'll still be a little part of, but there's going to be an announcement at the show in August where I think people are going to be really excited about the future of VHS and Chill. My tenure may be coming to an end. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's over for the city.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to just take a look around, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We can look around. Oh, wow. And a lot of these I can remember like where I got them, like where some of them have stories to them.
Yeah, what's the weirdest place you got like one of these tapes?
Oh, I've found them in the craziest places, weird thrift stores, vintage stocks. I started collecting them. They didn't used to have them. I'd get a lot of pawn shops back in the day, but tape swaps is really where it was at. Like tape swaps is where you find the good stuff. That's where you find, Martians Go Home, this awful, awful movie.
How many people would show up at like the Dallas tapes?
Oh, tons. They were huge groups. They were big crowds. You'd have 20, 30 vendors on a big day and just people all day buying stuff. Trading was a lot of fun. I would always say I would end up with more stuff than I left with. I would go to sell things and I would come back with just more stuff from there. Like End of the Night. Oh man, one of my favorite films, Ice Pirates. A lot of people have never seen this. They've never heard of this movie. It is just a goofball Star Wars ripoff from 1984, 1983. Mad Max, Star Wars, like it's great. I did a screening of this at Elk Valley back when Elk Valley was a thing. We did a screening of it there. I got 2 copies of that.
It's massive.
Oh yeah, those are the big case. Yeah, on that one. And obviously here's Buckaroo Banzai. That's one of my favorite films. Just fantastic. But it's just, there's so many different styles. There's so many different kinds. There's the big boxes like these old MGM ones. There's cut boxes like The Keep is a big famous movie. There used to be video rentals. That's like these. This is from Reese's. I would maybe in Tulsa, maybe in Owasso, wherever Reese's was, back when grocery stores had video stores. I like finding those. I got a bunch. Last Starfighter is literally one of my favorite movies of all times, if not my favorite movie, next to Blade Runner. Blade Runner is always first, but I love Last Starfighter.
I wanted to talk about Jerry Maguire. I forgot about earlier.
Jerry Maguire.
So one of the things that you kind of did was you set up a stand and you would just have like stacks of Jerry Maguire tapes to give away. Yeah. And like I remember going to Dead Center one year and you just had to stand there and like just let everybody who watched the movie take a tape.
Yeah. No, I got involved with the Jerry's. There's a group called Everything is Terrible out of California. They're a performance group. They're hilarious. They do live shows where they edit funny movies together. But they always have Jerry's. They back then they said they were going to build a pyramid of Jerry's in the California desert, like a full size Egyptian pyramid of Jerry's. I think they did a pop up where they had a video store that was only Jerry Maguire's, and I got into that. Because they were coming to Tulsa, and I did a Jerry drive, and I set up tubs at different bars across town, and I had a cardboard cutout of Tom Cruise with like one of those fundraiser meters, like how many Jerry's have we collected? Because at the end of their live shows, people would go on stage and give them Jerry's, and I had those going for months before their show. And then in Tulsa at Circle Cinema, they had their show, and somebody would come up and at the end of the show they're like, "Bring me your Jerry's." They have a guy saying that, and they toss 1 or 2 Jerry's. Some guy would maybe have 30 Jerry's, and everybody was like, "Woo!" And then I came up with all these duffel bags, and I dropped like 200 Jerry Maguires on this guy, and they loved it. They cracked up, and then of course I thought it was fun, so I did build the free Jerry Maguire VHS dispenser, which still lives. It used to be at Bookish for a while. Now it's at the OFX. So you can go in there and get Jerry's anytime you want. I got a big stock of them, so help yourselves. But it always cracked me up how many people took. That thing was always empty. I would fill it up with like 30 or 40 Jerry's, and I'd come back in a month and the thing would be empty. Like people were taking the Jerry's. And in my mind, I just imagine people in Oklahoma City are just, putting Jerry Maguires on their mantle, or, and their family next to their picture of their grandma, they've got a Jerry Maguire, like displaying it proudly in their home. Like, why else are people taking Jerry's? And they but it became, as the years went on, because that thing's been around for years, became so hard to find Jerry's here in town. I'd go to Vintage Stock, I'd go to Yukon, I'd go to different towns, I'd drive. When I took a trip, I would get wherever I was, I would jump out and look for Jerry's and bring them home and then fill up the dispenser, and then it would be emptied again in a month. Like, it was crazy to me that so many people took them, and it's full now. Last I saw it, had a good 30 or 40 Jerry's in there. But I imagine people will take them again because that's what it's there for.
I mean, I have one.
Yeah.
It's on top of my television.
Yeah. Right where it goes.
Yeah, along with like my Criterion collection.
Oh yeah, the good stuff, the 4Ks, the nice things. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know, what are some other sort of like niche like tape like cases that?
Oh yeah. Obviously, if we go, we go this way, I've got a whole bunch of rentals right here. I mean, here's a tape from Kroger, the Relic, from old Kroger grocery store system. Here's this is Hollywood Video. And I like, because you can always usually see where they're from. Like, sometimes. This one does not say what city and state it's from. Scream 2. Yeah. What is this one? Movie Gallery, Movie Gallery. I worked at a movie gallery for a while. This one's from Moore, Oklahoma. Citizen Kane on VHS. And then things like I don't know what a video street is from wherever that is, Brandon Boulevard. I don't know what state or city that's from, but yeah, Video Street. I like that. Double Dragon. I love Double Dragon. Also, just like Mario Brothers, a wacky, ridiculous, stupid adaptation. And then you've got the classic, blockbuster video cases that we all remember. This one's from Wichita, Kansas, Universal Soldier. And, Judge Dredd from Arlington, Texas is where this one's from. I love those. And then you've got foreign stuff. I've got, like this is a Japanese Miyazaki collection of Princess Mononoke. Like, sometimes they have really nice cases, and like this has no subtitles. There's no English language. It's just pure Japanese language. And I collect a lot of import tapes. I have a big collection upstairs of import tapes. So obviously I got into anime and stuff, but yeah, here's some more Miyazaki collection, Totoro.
Wow.
Again, just Buena Vista, Japan.
Find at like swaps.
Yeah, find at swaps, or once eBay started getting a lot more VHS as the years went on, I could be more decisive in the things I want to get, things I'm hunting for.
Do you think at one time you had the most like VHS tapes in Oklahoma?
For a time, probably. I know there's a couple other collectors, like I've mentioned before. There's a guy in El Reno with a barn and apparently in a huge collection. I haven't been out there. And there's a guy in Tulsa who I've seen pictures and have talked to, who has a basement set up like a video store, or at least he used to. And that dude had tons and tons of VHS tapes. But I mean, it was a big collection at its highest. Yeah. And then people making their own bootlegs. Like this just says Evil Dead 2. You know, it says Evil Dead 2 and Frankenstein Unbound. Like, I don't know. Some of this stuff I haven't ever watched. You know, TV shows, X-Men, the original X-Men 97 or 96, all the releases for that. I was big into that, and some Star Trek stuff. I like box sets. I made my own customs for a while. Like here's, you know, a cut box for Aquaman, the new Jason Momoa one. I have a lot of stuff like that upstairs of custom modern movies on VHS. I don't think I have a lot out here.
Would you actually burn like the movie on tape?
Yeah, wow. yeah, and you could watch it. Yeah, and you could like here's like some local bands start putting out stuff. I forget who these guys are, but they put their music and they set them to like VHS visuals and glitch art and imagery and stuff. I like things like that. I know Chat Pile, a local Oklahoma band, had a VHS release that I had Randy hook me up with. I had to get one of those.
I have one of those too.
Yeah, they did a limited of that. But yeah, like this Rage Against the Machine, 70 minutes of concert footage plus a CD single in the box. Like you'd have to, I guess, open it from the top or the bottom to get the tape out right here. But yeah, it's just, you know, I like the music. I've got a bunch of music videos. You know, obviously you got to have Pink Floyd The Wall, which is a total trip of a show. And I love finding when people write their names, because people used to borrow. They used to trade tapes to friends and family, so they would write their name. So if you found one of these in your collection, you're like, oh, that's Goldman's. That's not mine. I need to hit that dude up and give him his, you know, Pink Floyd back. So many of these have names written on the tapes. They're, you know, just, it's always fun to find stuff like that. And a lot of stuff is cool because, especially 10 years ago, especially before boutique Blu-ray and 4K companies started popping up, some of the stuff you could only find on VHS. Like before there was any kind of proper English, you know, 4K release of Venus Wars. I mean, this tape used to be in hot demand. This is an English language version of Venus Wars, which was an anime movie, which is a great movie. But back then, it was not streaming anywhere. You could only look up the VHS. So, and there's just stuff they never put on DVD, on Blu-ray that still, it's getting less and less now because they'll put anything. Anybody will release anything nowadays. But like for a long time, you know, there wasn't any kind of Blu-ray release of The Punisher, the original one with Dolph Lundgren from the 80s. Like there was a DVD, but when Blu-rays came out, there was like a foreign Blu-ray, a Region 2 or something that came out that everybody was trying to get. But, you know, I'm assuming now there might be an American version of that, but just a lot of stuff never came out on high def. Or just modern releases. Not that these are high def or anything, but you know, God, they're just.
What do you think it is about like physical media that like compels people to own like even VHS tapes?
A lot of it nowadays is because if you buy or you stream or you're buying digitally, you don't own it. You're buying a license. Until that company either loses the license or just decides to change their terms and conditions. You know, you may have a downloadable copy of, you know, not that one, like Spaceballs or something. You know, Spaceballs the video. But, you know, if that company changes or if, you know, Amazon drops it and Netflix doesn't pick it up, you know, there might be times where you don't have Spaceballs. So it's actual ownership of this stuff. Like if you want to watch it, you can put it on and watch it. You can do whatever you want with it. It's yours. It's your copy of that film. And that's in this day and age, that's starting to mean more and more. That's why people have big Blu-ray collections, big DVD collections, big 4K collections. Just because you actually still own it. It's something that you still have and can see and watch whenever you want. An example of that, I was trying to watch Lethal Weapon. recently. I wanted to watch the first Lethal Weapon. I was like, I haven't seen it in forever. I'm feeling Lethal Weapon. I think I watched something in the theaters that reminded me of it. And it wasn't streaming on. None of the big streaming platforms had it. You could rent it, if I wanted to pay $3.99 or whatever. But, what I did was I just came out, looked for my Lethal Weapons. You can see it. The first one's up there. But, then I've got 2, 3, and 4. If I want to watch Lethal Weapon, I can just pop it in. And if it's not streaming, that didn't stop me.
Well, part of winding down VHS and Chill is also like letting go of like all of these tapes. I mean, how do you feel about like letting go of? Is a big part of your life.
It is, and it was, and it meant a lot. And hanging out with my friends in the garage, doing things like this, watching these, pulling things off the wall, like, daring somebody, let's, have some drinks, let's make some food, and let's watch Knockoff. It was a blast. But since everybody's getting older, I'm getting older, time's going on, we're all busy with jobs. We're trying to make 401ks. We're trying to save. We're trying to maybe be able to retire if we can. And, I haven't had anybody in here in forever. These tapes are just collecting dust. There's literally just dust all over these tapes. They haven't been touched in years. And I don't like that. I'm not watching them. I'm too busy. I sometimes, like Lethal Weapon, if I'll get a hair and I want to watch one of them. But it's just, they're just sitting out here. And if somebody wants a new steward, somebody who's going to love them more, who they're going to be brand new to them, they're going to be things they want to do with. They want to figure out screenings. They want to show movies to their friends, host movie nights. That's what I would love to happen for this collection. Then, I'd never sell it to like vintage stock or, put it on eBay or something. Like I want it to go to some people that are going to take care of it, that are going to watch Maniac Cop 2, that are going to really get into it and have a good time. They want to see Mac and me and crack some jokes, go for it. But I just don't want to see him get destroyed. I don't want to see him trashed. I'd like to see him just go on. And I just, out here with me, they're just collecting dust, So it's, I have had my use of them, through VHS and Chill for 10 years. And I just feel like it's time for them to move on, for them to move on like they're people,
Yeah, it's like Toy Story.
It is. Yeah. But it's just every time I look at these, I'm like, oh, I remember that night, we all watched Great Expectations when there was a big, thunderstorm outside, the garage. And when we watched, Jaws 3, we had a blast making fun of it. Like I still have those memories, and I'll always have those memories of the fun nights that we did, the beginnings of VHS and Chill, what started it. And then later years through all the screenings at Rodeo and Flicks and now OFX, I'm still going to be doing movie screenings. They might not all be on VHS anymore, but OFX still has a VCR hooked up that I gave them up there in the booth. So anybody else wants to show their VHS, knock it out, make a rental, do something.
Yeah. Have you seen every single one of these movies?
Ooh.
Like on VHS tape?
I would say it's 90% that I have watched these. It's for them to end up here, they're like mine. If their stuff I don't like or don't want, they go in the tubs for the tape swaps or things I have doubles of. But if they end up on this shelf, I've seen them. I say that, but then I don't remember watching Killer Image with Michael Ironside. I remember getting this because it's like he's a photographer trying to kill people or something. Like it sounded great. It's probably terrible, 1992, but this is one I haven't seen. I've never watched it on anything. Now, some of these I have are signed by people. I know I've got a Weird Al VHS tape over here.
Really?
Yeah. That I met Weird Al and he signed my copy of Weird Al Yankovic Live on VHS.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I obviously remember when I got that. And,
yeah.
This was super rare, trying to find Michael Jackson's Moonwalker on any kind of modern or streaming service. I think recently they did something with it.
Is this the Coppola?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I've got tons of music video stuff, more... the Will Smith music video collection. Everybody needs that. Men in Black, Just Cruising. Come on. The McDonald's NSYNC Britney Spears VHS that McDonald's sold for a while.
If your place was burning down, what's the one? that you would save?
Oh man. Oof. I would try to scoop as many, many as I could. That would suck. I mean, obviously, in a fire, you got to be safe. But, oh man, yeah, there's probably some I'd try to grab on the way out.
Yeah.
Just to like Mario Brothers. Things like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
I guess as we focused a lot on the tapes, but I guess part of that is also just having like knowledge about fixing and owning VHS players.
Yeah, I tried back 10 years ago. I had stacks of VCRs, stacks of them, and it was easy to find a VCR and to find a working VCR. And what you do is you just clean them a little bit, clean them up, run them through some things, make sure you get all the goop at them, dust them, and then they play pretty good. The stuff I'm finding nowadays, I'll find a VCR or a TV VCR combo, and it'll crap out like 2 or 3 months. It'll quit playing, especially if I'm using it. They're just not holding up anymore. And I never learned how to fix them, how to repair. I've tried to fix this stuff. Like I know basic maintenance, but as far as like popping open a VCR and like swapping out, belts and greasing things and gears. And I never got that deep into it. So, because back then if your VCR broke, you just go to the thrift store and buy another VCR for $5. You go to Goodwill and you pick up 3 VCRs for like $15 and you would just clean them and then they'd play great. You can't do that anymore. They're selling these at like local shops for like $50-$60 a pop for a VCR. Yeah, some old VCRs up there.
Yeah, like I guess as part of this like nostalgia revitalization.
Yeah.
Like all the prices of this stuff has like jumped.
Yeah.
Way more.
Yeah, it has.
I don't know. Is that something that you're sort of like feeling weird about, I guess, like seeing sort of a speculator's market kind of take hold?
It never really, because I like garbage and goofy movies and stuff that not a lot of people are collecting tapes of Mystery Men, so occasionally I'll bump into it. And, like one of my ones I was hunting for the longest time was a VHS copy of One from the Heart. Francis Ford Coppola. I love that movie. It's amazing. Gorgeous movie. Music is fantastic. It is so hard to find on VHS. They came out with a 4K recently. I bought the 4K. I have that. But I think I paid like $90 to buy a VHS of One from the Heart. And, it kind of sucks that usually these things you get for $0.25. And I looked everywhere like hoping to just find it in a 10-cent bargain bin. And I never could. And you just break down and you're like, I want that tape. I'm going to spend $90. I'm going to buy that tape. I don't do that a lot. Very rarely did I spend for something expensive. But it happens. There's a couple in here. Like the Miyazaki stuff was pretty pricey. Those anime films from Japan, getting my hands on those. Those cost a little bit. But just... that's how markets are. That's how it is with vinyl. Cassettes are a little bit like that. There's still DVDs and Blu-rays that go out of print that sometimes can get pretty pricey, but definitely VHS. Some of the really rare, hard to find stuff. You'll find 1,000 copies of Jurassic Park and Terminator 2. Like they're great films. People love them. They love to buy them, but you're never going to have a hard time finding. You can go to vintage stock and find, 4 Jurassic Parks just on the shelf. But like, if you're trying to find Sorcerer, that you're not going to find a lot of those sitting around. Like that's a fantastic, that's an old Blockbuster sticker coming off rental. Things like that are harder to find. And when you do find those, it's kind of a little rush. It's a collector's rush. You're like, oh yeah. Space Hunter, the Space Truckers one, because those weren't very big. But like, you'll find a million Sandlots, but how many times did you find Sandlot 2 on VHS? The direct-to-video sequel, Sandlot 2.
So is that like, that sort of level of popularity?
Yeah.
Like justified getting a tape made, but not many people owned it?
No, yeah. Like, you'll find the Rambos. I mean, Police Academy was huge when it came out, so I have all those. But, again, just finding some of the smaller titles, especially horror became a big thing in recent years. Like that's probably like a $60-$70 tape. Rad, the BMX bike movie. That's a rare tape, you know, filmed. I don't know if it was filmed in Oklahoma. I know Oklahoma people were involved in that, but like that's hard to find. You can't just grab an old copy of that, you know, at the local vintage stock. It's not going to come up.
Shrek Retold?
Yeah. See, I have a lot of modern tapes of modern releases that people have put on VHS. This is a group on the internet that they did Shrek shot for shot, but it was by like 200 storytellers. They animated the movie in their own way through every scene. Sometimes it's CG, sometimes it's, you know, claymation, sometimes it's a guy in a puppet suit, you know, sometimes it's just people with paint on, and they make these and they release them. And I support guys like that are putting things on VHS like that, you know, it's on YouTube or whatever, but they have a physical release. I always love getting stuff. I have a big collection upstairs of stuff like that, of modern things.
Yeah. It does seem like as we get more and more polished and digital, especially with like AI and stuff, desire to like have something on a format that is like bad, kind of is desirable.
Yeah.
You know?
Like this is some guy's custom. Spookies is a known super hard to find VHS tape. I could never find it, but this is just some guy's custom tape that he sold on Instagram or something, you know, making his own labels. And, you know, I love stuff like that. I love getting those things, you know, that you can't find, that somebody's, you know, filling a void, somebody's making a fun bootleg.
Yeah. I guess what would you say to the next sort of owner of all these tapes?
Go through them. Go through each and every one. Look at them, check them, especially, you know, with mold being a huge thing in the VHS community. You know, I check these every now and then, but because when you go through them, it's personal. When you see just a row of tapes, it's whatever. But when you're like organizing, or when they're getting them and they're putting them up on their shelf, you know, and whatever new place they go to, you know, he's like, oh, Short Circuit. You know, this is that edition. It was, you know, no mold, looks good. You know, that's a good one, you know. The Shining, you know, there's that one. What is this? Shark Attack 2? Just whatever gibberish this movie is. Like, I love it. I love stuff like that. Just Trimark, straight to video. My thing with them would just be go through them. And if you see one you want, watch it. If you see something you haven't seen, put it on. You know, watch The Sandlot 2. You may have a fun time, you may not, you know?
Yeah, get some friends.
Yeah, get some friends, do movie nights, do watch parties. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I still like it. I hope OFX still does VHS screenings, you know? Then you've got like, you know, Six String Samurai. That's another rare one that's hard to find on VHS. Just a 90-minute goofball movie that I love. And you got movies that have been through some things. One, a perfect analogy for the film Straw Dogs. Dustin Hoffman, like, look at this. Some dude's scotch taped. There's no top to it. Like this tape is this is taped on. Like Paul was trying his best to keep this tape going from Video Express, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Like whoever Paul was, man, he liked this. He wrote it on the inside of the box. Like I love that stuff. Like this movie, that tape has seen some things.
Yeah, it's like owning a small piece of like
history. Yeah. You know, does Paul know that in the future year of 2026, some dude's got that in his collection? And I watched that, like that copy. Like he doesn't know that, but if he did, he'd probably think it was pretty cool. Like if I found out somebody was watching this stuff, you know, 10, 15 years down the road, like, hey, I got that VHS and Chill collection. I'm watching it. I'd be like, heck yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, is this just all alphabetical?
Yes, up to here with the animated and the music videos and the Star Treks. Those are all out of order. You got Rollerblade, like chicks on rollerblades with hockey sticks and knives, you know, killing people in the apocalyptic future. Like stuff like this. I don't know where you would find this anymore, where to watch that.
Yeah, I think another thing about like the old VHS tape days is like you could kind of get like indie cinema to the masses that way.
Radioactive Dreams, man, that's a good one.
Like it seems harder for like people to kind of dispense their movies.
Yeah, well, the thing that messes you up is that statistic that the typical American sees 2 to 3 movies a year. That's it. That's like they're just going to go see the Minions movie, they're going to go see Avengers, and they're going to go see, you know, a rom-com or something. Like, that's it. that they're going to take their kids to something. But like, it's very rare that people like me or whoever watch, I don't know how many movies I watch a month, 20, 30, you know, depending on that, maybe not 30, but I know people that watch that much stuff, but you know, and that's a month. So a full year, you know, I'm watching hundreds of movies compared to the average American who just sees 2 or 3. So like that's what I mean when people have never heard of this. Like these kids, when would a kid has just sat down and watched Empire Records? Like why? Why would some, you know, 22-year-old kid watch that? Unless they heard something or saw a meme or shared or something on TikTok maybe. But that's why I do these screenings, to show that these movies are fun, that they're cool.
Yeah, it's ironic because like we're in like such a paradise of choice right now. Like with streaming, you can technically get like everything just straight to you.
Yeah, and the people they just flip.
It's so hard to like they don't do any sort of curating. Like, it's just a stream of stuff.
Vomit it out.
Hard to like pick something out.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. But you see a wall like this, you pick up a tape, you go, I like Tom Selleck. Like he's a cowboy. What is this? And then you're like he's in Australia, like fighting evil ranchers. You're like, heck yeah, I'm going to watch that. That sounds awesome. But if you're just going through names and titles, you're going to see Quigley Down Under and just be like, what is that? Like, I'm not going to watch that. Like, but when you can feel it, when you can touch it in your hand and take it in and put it in, and that's how you watch Rambo. Like it's a blast.
Yeah. What's the first movie you think you watched?
Ever? Like as a kid? I remember watching, it was over here, Mac and Me.
Really?
I remember watching this when I lived in Tulsa, and this came out in 1989. So I was like, or 88. I was like 7 when this came out. And I remember my school group or daycare group or aftercare group or somebody, we went with a whole bunch of other kids to the theater and saw Mac and Me. Like, I remember that. I remember seeing that. I remember seeing the old Star Wars movies. I think I remember my parents taking me to Return of the Jedi, which might have been one of the earliest ones. Because I remember being a kid and opening up a lot of Star Wars toys at Christmas when I was a little kid. So definitely some of those 80s movies, you know, when they came out. And of course, when I would go to my grandparents' house, they were the only people I knew back then that had cable. And I would just I would wake up late at night, go and watch HBO all night long. That's how I watched RoboCop, was like on cable at 3 a.m. in my grandma's house, like in the living room with the volume turned way down so nobody would wake up, and just being mortified by like that slime guy getting run over by that truck and exploding and just seeing things you're not supposed to see as a little kid. I loved that. So
you always want to do something with movies growing up?
Not until Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park was when I was like, movies are magic. 1993. That was the awakening for me that, you know, movies can be this huge media, this whole thing, because it was everywhere. You know, when Jurassic Park I had the t-shirts, I had the toys, I had the Nerf guns, I had, you know, I like little kids like dinosaurs anyway, but man, Jurassic Park fever, if you weren't there in 93, it was everywhere. Like the McDonald's Happy Meals, it was awesome. And that was my first like blockbuster, like my first like, this is crazy.
Awesome. Do you have a Jurassic Park tape?
I should. HIJK. It would be right there. JP, Lost World, Jurassic Park 3. That's the OG one. And then there's like the Letterboxd. I was like the only person I knew who bought Letterboxd back when they came out.
What is Letterboxd?
Letterboxd is this. These movies that have this where it says Letterboxd Edition. And what it is instead of your TV being like a square like this, it's like widescreen like it was in the movie. They don't pan and scan. And I remember Best Buy had Letterboxd at Best Buy, like in Suncoast had Letterboxd movies. And I would always try to buy the Letterboxd movies because it was how the director intended. It was, you know, how the film was meant to be seen originally without them cutting them to. And I remember telling people back then in the 90s that TVs were going to be widescreen because that's how movies are shot. That's how they're filmed. That's how they are in the theater. When they come home, they squish them down and mess them up. And I was like, TVs are going to be flat. They're going to be they're going to be widescreen was my thing, is they're going to make widescreen TVs. And then they did. And now everything's in widescreen. Anything on Netflix is in widescreen. It's in Letterboxd. It's rare to find stuff in pan and scan, like 4x3, you know, A24 does stuff. You know, they have some movies they do like that. What was it? The Lighthouse, you know, was 4x3. Like it's fun, but I would always try to find the letterbox tapes. And I remember I used to have on my old shelf when I was a kid, I had just the row of just the letterbox movies. I would have just them by themselves.
Like your Criterion.
Yeah, like my Criterion. Like letterbox edition of Stargate versus the regular one. Yeah, I would always try to get the letterbox stuff, and nobody liked them. They were like, "What are the black bars at the top and the bottom of the screen? This sucks." And I'm like, "No, this is how it's supposed to be seen. This is how it was in the theaters, man. You got to get the letterboxed."
Yeah,
I remember shouting into the sky with that crap when I was a kid. Nobody cared.
So you've had it in you since like young.
Yeah, and then when I became 16, where did I start working? Video stores. I worked at Blockbuster Video, Hollywood Video, Movie Gallery, Video Update. You know, I worked at all those video stores because I loved movies. I loved being able to rent movies. That's where, when I worked at Video Update, there was like no limit. I remember on the weekends I would come home with 2 bags of like 12 movies and I would just consume film. I would watch Barfly. Things customers recommended, I would write down. And then when it was my time to leave, I'd grab those movies and watch them. And that's how I grew, you know, my knowledge of film. It was watching stuff when I worked at video stores. And then of course I started working at movie theaters, and then all came around again to running my own theater, running, you know, Rodeo Cinema for 4 years. That was amazing. That was the best job. That was a blast. Getting to meet actors and directors. And that's when I started interacting with the Oklahoma film community and helping with productions. And that's why, like, I have an IMDb page where I helped out on a couple films with VHS props and some other things. And, you know, met Mickey Reese and, you know, all these local guys that are just fantastic. All of that was because of VHS and Chill, of watching these movies all the time. It was all worth it. It's absolutely worth it. I don't regret the money I've spent. VHS and Chill has never made me a dime. I've never made any money off VHS. I've just lost money like a hobby. It's just gone. You know, even if I sell stuff like this, it's like even selling the collection, like I'm not going to get even a quarter of what I paid for this stuff over the years, you know, and spent on these things. But that's never what it was about for me. It was never about finding a cool tape and selling it. It was like finding a cool tape and keeping it and watching it, showing your friends.
Yeah, it was like, even the swaps, it was like more an opportunity to share like the tapes.
Show the cool stuff you have. Yeah. I would price a ton of stuff at just $1 just to let somebody have a tape, let somebody watch something they were looking for. Somebody's like, "Oh man, Men in Black, I've been looking for that." It's like, bro, it's $1. Take it. Enjoy. Get your Men in Black on, man. I dig it.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
All right.
This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to kind of show off your collection and stuff.
Yeah, especially before the end and before the goodbye. Yeah. There'll be the care of another generation, as they say, the care of another generation.